coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Tuesday. We are, January 5th already. Going to be another good one. Kevin Brockway not with us today. He's on a little bit of vacation down in Florida, but Mike DeCourcy is going to be with us actually a little bit longer, so we'll look forward to that. Chronic Hoosier on as well. So as normal Tuesday, we're going to hear from Archie Miller. Lots to talk about. Indiana basketball gets a very good win for them last night. It wasn't pretty at times, but it's a win, and a win is always pretty at the end of the day. So we'll be talking quite a bit about that. Looking forward to hearing from you as well. You can hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6967. Anytime you want to do that, we can get to that as well. But Indiana beating Maryland last night was huge for them. It was, every game is getting to be a must-win, not for anything else other than every game that you play is just going to be a difficult test. And Indiana's next game, they have to go on the road to Wisconsin. So you have to try to win at home at all costs. But every game is going to be a challenge. And Maryland is a team that we just saw a week and a half go to Wisconsin and beat number 6, the number 6 Badgers. So we knew that Maryland could play well and that Indiana was going to have to play well to beat them. And that was not the case. But fortunately, neither team played sterling in the first half. It was just weird, to be honest with you, as you sit there and watch. And one of the tweets I sent out was, I just don't know what the end game was with Indiana's offense, because it didn't seem like it was intending to go anywhere. And it was just weird. Second half, completely different scenario. Trace Jackson Davis, a lot more aggressive, as was Race Thompson. He actually tried to be aggressive early on, scored and did early, and then kind of didn't do a lot until at the end of the game. But Trace Jackson's second half performance obviously made a huge difference. They're going to have to get that game in and game out, unfortunately. And most games you're not going to be able to wait until halftime to get that going. And then the shooting, again, man, there's just not a lot you can say. It's not there, and they got by beating a Maryland team, but again, Maryland is not a team that's they're probably going to finish, I don't know, 7th, something like that in that category. You got a lot of other teams that you're not probably going to have that margin of error like you did last night. But hey, a win is a win, and they gritted it out. And I think more importantly for them, that second half grit was important. You got to look at the loss of Armaan Franklin for a couple of games. You're not going to have him for Archie. Tweaked his ankle. It was weird. I saw him do it, and he kind of get up, and you could tell I didn't know. Well, you couldn't tell it was that bad, but just a couple of games. It's just anytime you really tweak one, it just takes you a week to get back. There's just not a lot you can do with that. But he's the guy that has been shooting well, and so you can see the loss that has. He didn't have a chance to get going because he wasn't in the game there at that point. You got the 4 freshmen that played. I think they between the 4 of them, they all got in, but there was 2 points scored between all 4 of them. And ironically, if I recall correctly, I think Trey Galloway scored the first bucket of the game on a driving layup, which was great to see because I remember, seeing, he's looking to score right off the bat. Some other guys looked to score right off the bat, and but then Trey didn't score again. Somebody's got to step up now for Armaan. When you go to Wisconsin, somebody's going to have to hit some shots. They're going to have an interior game, but they're going to have to put it all together. We'll talk about more of that later. Archie, we'll see from Archie, though, last night. He's certainly happy with the win, of course, but let's hear what Archie had to say after Indiana beats Maryland.
Very difficult game. Maryland has been playing terrific basketball. They've been really, really hard to deal with defensively for a lot of teams here coming in. Last week at Wisconsin with their small ball lineup, the amount of threes they made against Michigan the other night with their 4s and 5s. So we were very concerned coming in the game with how to defend. But I thought our guys did a great job for the most part of being able to contain their front court from getting good threes. Dante Scott coming in the game has been fantastic, and didn't have a big scoring night. That was important, and I thought we did a decent job on their guards, kind of keeping them in front. But the tale of two halves really, was offensively. In the second half, we were a much different team. We were much more physical around the basket. It started with Trace. We were much more physical on the offensive glass. I know Race and Trace really started to get after it there. And, we were able to break the game open, I think, with a couple good swings, moved the ball, made a couple opportunistic shots and drives. And right when we got about the 12-minute mark, 10-minute mark, 8-minute mark, it sort of feels the same. You're in the game, you're up two, whatever it may be. And we hadn't been able to close here recently defensively. I thought that was a big difference tonight. That hadn't been. We just didn't give the avalanche of points up in the last 8 minutes of the game that we had done in the past, and so that was a positive. But anytime you can get a win in this league, right now you got to take it, and that was a good one for us, and we'll see where we go from there.
There's Archie Miller talking about last night's win over Maryland, and that's what they have to do. They have to go from there. They have to build on that. You don't have a lot of time. You got a couple of days. Thursday, it's off on the road to a place that's difficult to play in normal circumstances. Now it's not as much. The thing is, and I've said this a couple of times, you got to bring your own energy. And a lot of times these road teams know that. So they seem to work a little harder at that. Indiana's going to have to do the same up in Wisconsin. Maryland was able to do that. They're going to need that effort from Trayce Jackson-Davis, though, from start to finish. And I know that that's hard to do. You go 60 minutes hard, but you have to go as hard as possible when you're in there. And that's what they're going to have to get from him. And they have to find him. But somebody's going to have to step up and hit shots for this team to be successful going forward. The grit helped, and the win always helps, and it gives you confidence. Somebody from the freshman group is going to have to step up, especially if Armand's going to be out. We'll see who that is. We're going to talk some bracketology with Mike DeCourcy a little later on as well. But Archie also talked about that effort from Trayce Jackson-Davis and the effort that he gave. And let's hear, Will, if you got that ready. Let's go ahead and let that one roll.
And don't shoot the threes. For us, first half was abysmal offensively in general. Second half was much different.
Zach?
Sorry, I struggled with my mute button. Archie, I guess to that point, just how important was, particularly from Race and Trace, the rebounding effort, especially against a team where maybe you're going to face a lot of long rebounds. There's maybe going to be the danger of some of those second shots.
Yeah, second shots. Maryland's traditionally a very good rebounding team. I think Wiggins got one on us in the first half. And in the second half, they didn't get very many long ones. Maybe Scott got in there one late in the second half. But, the rebounding was huge. And, when Trace and Race rebound like that, offensively and defensively, we're a much better team. But our guards are having to go and get every ball. We're just not overly big enough sometimes to be able to hang in there on the glass. And tonight was a big guy rebounding game. Our big guys did a good job. Trace had 11 defensive and Race had 17. So those two guys got 18 defensive rebounds between the two of them. So that was really important. But, Trace was a big, obviously he flipped it around in the second half, which is what good players do. And I didn't think he could have played any weaker around the rim in the first half. And then in the second half, he was much, much more himself, jumping, rebounding, offensive stick backs, got fouled. And, really had a great second half for us.
There you go. That's Archie Miller talking about both of the interior players mainly, but and Trayce Jackson. But it was the effort that they needed to get from those guys. But Trayce Jackson's going to have to step up. And something else, I think he's got to work on developing that shot. But last night we talked after the game with Dean Garrett, and he said, he'll be fine. He's got a great teacher, and of course he does, in his father, Dale Davis. But he tried those shots a couple times last night. They didn't really fall, but of course not many shots were. One thing Indiana or a couple of things positive they also didn't turn the ball over much last night at all. The turnovers were low, and they're continuing to hit their free throws. That's a good sign. They're hitting them at a high rate. That's a good sign. That shows, to me at least, that shows focus at the free throw line, because I think that's what was completely absent before, because there was no reason not to be hitting those. But we'll see. We'll keep going forward. We got another game to talk about and plenty to talk about with it later on today. Lots more to get to. The NCAA tournament completely played in the state of Indiana. How exciting is that? Mainly they're saying Indianapolis, but it's going to be spread out. There's going to be games at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall in Bloomington, up in Mackey, in West Lafayette, Hinkle. Man, how cool would that be? Just from a historic perspective, to get the kids that get to go play in that gym that have never done so, they're going to think that is the coolest thing in the world. They've all seen Hoosiers. They know that movie, man. Everybody has seen that, and that would be so cool. Let's see how many guys are getting the tape measure out and measuring from the floor to the rim and all that good stuff. But plenty Lucas Oil Stadium, of course, Bankers Life Fieldhouse, the Coliseum up there at the fairgrounds. I think that covers the locations. But it's going to be spectacular to be able to have that entire tournament within the state of Indiana. I mean, it's not going to be the same because you won't have all the fans most likely, but it's still going to be a cool thing. It's just a showcase. It's an opportunity for the state of Indiana to showcase itself. Now, if Indiana does make the tournament, of course, they will not be able to play in Assembly Hall, as they wouldn't. That is never allowed anyway. But they'd be shipped off to one of these other locations. It could be Mackey Arena, which wouldn't be bad for them because they have some familiarity with it. A lot of these other gyms they would not have played in other than Bankers Life. I don't know when's the last time Indiana played at Butler. I'd have to look that up. I'm sure somebody will do that. But the Coliseum, heck, nobody plays out there. That's where I think IUPUI plays. Of course, Lucas Oil, nobody plays in that cavern except for the final usually. And but so we'll see how it goes. But it's going to look, it's going to be an awfully exciting time when March rolls around. And I think there's no other place to have done it. I don't think there's a state in this country that could host this tournament as effectively as Indiana, because the basketball fabric runs through this state. Of course, the NCAA is housed in Indianapolis, and that makes it easier as well. But we're looking forward to Mike DeCourcy coming on next, and we'll talk about bracketology and a few other things, as well as the tournament in Indianapolis. Chronic Hoosiers on today as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans.
Are there any more clips for today?
No, sir.
Okay.
Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you, sir?
Hey, Jim, what's going on?
Same old, just back at it. Another day, another 50 cents. Man, I can't wait to talk bracketology, not specifics, but just how crazy this has to be the craziest year to ever attempt that.
Yes, I think it will be. Yes, I do. So far, it's been a challenge, but it's interesting the way people react to it. That's for me the fun part. It's that people take it really seriously, especially. And the ones that are the most fun are the earliest ones, because you're like, it's one line. They've played 5 games. What are you talking about?
I was watching that game last night, that first half. I was like, man, either one of these teams are going to be in the tournament. No.
Yeah.
But then they turned it around.
Yeah, it's just it's strange, I mean, it was interesting to hear on the broadcast Archie admit that Rob has struggled with confidence because it's what you can see it plain as day. I mean, when he attacks, he's a really good player, and when he just stands there, they can't play.
Worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Have you ever seen the rain?
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Tuesday, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, as always. The great Mike DeCourcy with us now. You know him from Sporting News, Fox, and BTN, bracketologist. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
I am very well, Jim. How are you?
Doing fine. There's no snow on the ground. Everything's okay. Life is okay. Indiana got a win last night, so we got that to talk about. It's just a weird night. That first half was just weird, and then Indiana turns things around and made a great game out of it. Trace Jackson Davis had a great performance, but I was thinking the whole time of that first half of bracketology, and I'm like, oh, man, how incredibly difficult is this year going to be for the guys like yourself that do this? Because one week you see a Maryland team that played like I saw them play last night. A week and a half ago, I know they went to the Kohl Center and they beat a number 6 Wisconsin team. It's crazy.
Well, that's part of the nature of this league is that, you know, I had someone, and I think they were talking about Purdue and where I had Purdue seated. And I think I didn't have them seated. I had them on the outside of the bracket yesterday. They were the first Big Ten team to drop that had been in to drop out after recent results. And one of the Purdue fans, you know, they didn't argue vehemently they should be in, but the position they made was, well, we got through the tougher part of our schedule. And I'm like, no, there is no tougher part. I mean, they're all it's the Big Ten schedule. And so you can't rely on, well, we got through playing, let's say, and I haven't even looked to see who they played. Let's say you played Illinois and Wisconsin and Iowa, and maybe they have. I can't remember exactly which teams Purdue has played, but it may be easier to get through some of it, but there's still a deluge coming behind it, and you have to be ready for all of it if you're going to make the NCAAs out of this season. And that's not to say that you can't go through a tough stretch, recover, and come back, and then start to get the wins that you need to make it. But you can't rely on the idea that, well, this is the easier part of the schedule. Wisconsin found that out in their home Maryland game. The Terps were great. The Terps were a little bit limited last night because they lost Morsell, and he is such an important part of who they are as a unit and what they do on the floor as well. He's a productive player, but also a great leader, and it certainly helped the Hoosiers that he wasn't there. But that's the nature of this season, that you go down to number 13 and you're playing a tournament quality team. Whether they're not all going to make it, but they all have the ability to make it. And number 14, while Nebraska isn't very good, they're certainly better than they were a year ago. And they were dangerous a year ago. The Hoosiers learned that a couple of times. They didn't lose, but they certainly struggled to win. And so you have to be ready to play pretty much every night in this league. And whereas once upon a time, let's say you had Nebraska in your gym, well, you basically could beat them with half an effort and your crowd doing the. You have to be able to to win the game on your own. So because you don't have a crowd. So every night you have to be close to your best in the Big Ten to have a chance to win.
Yeah, and I've noticed that one of the visiting team, knowing that, sometimes, at least for a good spurts, seems to bring up more energy at times, at least in Assembly Hall here of late. And I think one of the reasons is the visiting teams are allowed to kind of take over the corner of their end down there. Indiana's players are kind of hemmed in, and it's like they can't just get into it. And it's just the whole dynamic is weird for in that regards.
Well, I did a story before Christmas, and you can still find it. I talked to Steven Izzo from Michigan State, as well as walk-on type players for 3 or 4 other colleges across the country, from Arizona to Marquette to Syracuse. Syracuse's guy was a scholarship player because Syracuse actually sent their walk-ons home. So the scholarship guys who aren't in the game have to do the job of bringing the energy from the bench. And they all talked about the challenge of trying to make sure that their guys on the floor know that they have people behind them, people trying to get their best effort out of them. And it is a different environment. I don't know whether it's unique that the Indiana visiting teams can have a more control of their corner or not. I don't know if that's unique, but I do know that anybody who really wants to try to bring the energy from the bench to the players has that opportunity. And I would say that probably it ebbs and flows some. And one of the interesting comments from the Syracuse player I interviewed was how much he respected the way Rutgers did it in their game against in the Orange's game against the Scarlet Knights. He thought that Rutgers did a phenomenal job with that. And I think that's reflective of an effective team culture as well, that you have the ability to be able to be involved in the game, even if you're not playing, because you understand this is your role with this team.
And then not only that, you talk about the season, because I know for like football, we look at Indiana and now they end up kind of coming out flat after just being up for every game. But the stress, I don't know that people have the slightest clue of how much stress they've really been under. As when I say stress, as far as all the things they've given up and not been able to go places, do things under a microscope, and the basketball season, it's all indoors, it's long. There's just so much of a mental aspect to that, and these are young kids.
Yeah, well, I think that honestly, I do believe that a lot of us can identify with it to an extent, because we've all made a lot of sacrifices, or most of us have made a lot of sacrifices. So I think we can identify with what they're going through to an extent. Their experience may be different than ours, but all of our experiences, for those of us who are taking the virus seriously and trying to remain vigilant about it, we all have had our experiences altered. So in that sense, the players who have to isolate, have to be away from family and friends, and can't go out and have a pizza and a beer or whatever. Those who are legal, by the way, it's different for everybody, and so it's different for them, and they have to adapt. And I'm sure that it's a challenge for many of them. I know there was one player, and now I can't remember from what team he left, but he wasn't playing a lot, and he just felt that this circumstance wasn't what he wanted, because he wasn't being allowed to do fun things or whatever, and he also wasn't playing very much. And ultimately, he decided to, understanding that this year of eligibility is basically free, basically decided that he didn't want to spend it. And that's up to every individual athlete, male, female, whatever sport they're playing in college, whether or not it's worthwhile to them to do this. But remember that if you are paying attention to trying to keep the pandemic as contained as possible, that there basically are no activities that aren't significantly altered.
When it comes to bracketology this year, this is probably the most difficult year ever of doing this. It's like a most fluid, nonstop. Do you think that they're going to expand the bracket? I know keep everything the same, or they've already announced the 67?
Yeah, I mean, they discussed whatever possibilities, and they said before the season that it would be a 68-team field, and they announced about a month ago or so that they were going to try to contain it to a single location, and everyone understood that it was likely to be Indiana, and in general, and in Indianapolis in particular. And yesterday they announced that they had a deal, whatever the deal entailed, and that they had participation from IU with Simon Scott Assembly Hall, from Purdue with Mackey Arena. They'll use 4 facilities within the city limits: the State Fair Coliseum, the Indiana Farmers Coliseum is the proper name. Butler's Hinkle Fieldhouse, Bankers Life downtown, and Lucas Oil Stadium. I was asked, why would you use Lucas Oil Stadium when you aren't likely to have many, if any, fans involved? And because you can stick 2 courts in there, and they will. For the early rounds of the tournament, they will put 2 courts in. They will only ever have 1 game going on at any particular time in that building, but you can put 2 courts in there, and you can play 1 game and then move to the other court and play another game. There won't be as much downtime because the entrance and egress will be separate, so you won't have to completely sanitize before you play the next game, because you'll be playing on an entirely different court in an entirely different part of the building. So that helps them with making the tournament move in the way they want it to move. As I said, they'll play at Mackey, they'll play at Assembly Hall. There had been some discussion about whether they might also go to Ball State and play in their arena. I'm not sure whether or not that's now included, but I do know that Ball State is highly involved in sponsoring the tournament. So this has become an Indiana event, and there was a lot of romance thrown around on Monday about that. The idea, well, gee, this is basketball's heartland, and it is. But I don't know that the level of participation from the public will be permissible or feasible or wise by the time we get to March. So I don't want people to get overly enthusiastic about what it'll mean to have it in Indiana. Maybe the romance is designed to replace the fact that there won't be as many fans or maybe any fans in the buildings, and there won't be the kind of events that you see around the Final Four, the coaches convention and the hanging around the bars and all that stuff. It's not going to be the same. So maybe I'm being a little bit too realistic about it and not swaying over to the romance of playing in Hinkle Fieldhouse. I love Hinkle. It's a great building, and in maybe certainly the greatest basketball scene in movie history. I watched it again yesterday when they walk into Hinkle for the first time to play in Hoosiers, the state championship game, to get ready for it. And Coach Dale brings out the measuring tape. That's it. If you want to remember why Indiana is the place for hoops, just go. It's 2.5 minutes of your day. Punch it up on YouTube and go see it. Because it'll remind you why you love basketball and why you're proud to be part of Indiana basketball. But I hope that some of that spirit is able to find its way through into the tournament when there's tangibly there may not be any way for it to happen.
It's funny. Before you came on, I talked about that very scene in the Hoosiers at Hinkle. Imagine and say, what team is going to get to play there that does not bring that tape measure and doesn't do that? I guarantee you somebody's going to do that. You have to. You have to.
Yeah. And so what I want to know is who climbs up on whose shoulders to get the tape. Who's got an ollie sitting around to climb up there. But
Purdue used to have one. He's gone now.
It is a magnificent scene. It really is. It's my favorite. My second favorite basketball scene in any movie is in White Man Can't Jump, the scene where Marcus Johnson's playing in the playground and says he's going to go get his gun. That's my second favorite. But my favorite is when Coach Dale says, put Ollie on your shoulders. I mean, I got chills watching it yesterday. And I hope that that feeling is able to permeate the tournament, because it's going to be a different tournament than what we're accustomed to. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be 1,000% better, 1,000,000% better than last year's tournament.
Your colleague Bob Ryan goes one step farther and suggested Indianapolis should be the permanent home for the Final Four.
I've lived in Indy since 2014. I moved here in October of 2014. My wife and I moved here. And I had written, and I have written it since, that Indianapolis should be the permanent host for the Final Four. But honestly, people might think that it's for the purpose of, gosh, I don't even have to stay in a hotel. I can drive in.
Yeah.
But it's actually, although it does give me the chance to see my wife at breakfast when the Final Four is here. I like the Final Four as an Indianapolis resident or Indianapolis suburbs resident. I live in Fishers. As a resident of suburbs, I like it better when it's elsewhere, because when you live in the Final Four city, you just commute. It's not the same. You're not really at it. So when I say Indianapolis should be the Final Four permanent host, it's not for me. I wrote it well in advance of having moved here, and I don't like it as much when it's here. It was here in 15, my second year here, my first year here. It wasn't as much fun for me, but I still know that it's the best place to have the Final Four for a few reasons. One, a compact downtown, you can walk everywhere, including to the arena. All the restaurants, all the bars and such, it's all right there, the hotels. And then secondarily, it's the only place that holds the Final Four, that you feel the Final Four as more than just an event. You feel it as a basketball tournament as well. When you're in the arena on Saturday and Monday, and the ball's bouncing and all that, it's a basketball tournament in every place that it is. And when you're away, it's an event. And it's only an event in most of the cities where it's played. But when it's here in Indianapolis, it's an event and it's a basketball tournament when you're out of the arena as well. That's what's missing in the other places. I mean, I still remember this. I still remember walking from my hotel, which I believe at that point was the Omni, to the RCA Dome, which of course no longer exists. And there was some kind of sporting goods store or something. I don't think it's there anymore. But there was a sporting goods store that had a television in the window. And it played Damon Bailey's state championship game on a 24-hour loop during the Final Four that year. And you don't get that anywhere else. And I know that's a really silly, inconsequential little thing, but it reminds you that this place really does love basketball. San Antonio is a great city, and a great city for the Final Four if it's going to move around. But I still remember that in 2007, when I went there for a regional, and this was before the Turner contract, so that all the games basically are broadcast nationally. And this was when you had to have the package to be able to see all the games up to the regional finals. In order to be able to watch you'd get one game on CBS and then the other game wouldn't be on because it was regional. And I went looking for a bar on the Riverwalk that just had the package to watch all the games, so I could sit in one place and have all four games in front of me, 2 and 2, and you couldn't find one, not one, not a single one. I mean, it's an NBA town. They don't care about college basketball except when the Final Four is there. And I think that makes a difference. And I think it should be more than about where you go get, when it's in New Orleans, everybody loves New Orleans. And I remember all that anybody cared about is where they could get a restaurant reservation. I don't care that much. I want to go, I want to watch games, and I want to talk hoops. I don't care what I eat as long as I like, as long as it's edible. Like if it's a burger, great. If it's a chicken sandwich, great. I don't need a gourmet meal to enjoy the Final Four. I want to go and I want to talk hoops and I want to watch games, and that's it.
And we're going to do a lot more of that with the great Mike DeCourcy on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not
Somebody
covering
said
the Bob Ryan, just wanted to eat shrimp. He just wanted shrimp. I'm saying Elmo.
There you go.
I had that at the airport on my way to Florida the other day. Oh my God. I either I don't remember, but I just took a bite and I thought my head was going to explode. I was like, "Oh my God, do they put steroids in this? Oh wow!"
So you're a brave man because you're doing that, and you don't know how it's going to treat you on the way to Florida.
All that it was just nuts. Just threw caution to the wind. Getting on a plane on top of it, a packed plane.
True, definitely true.
I just gave myself any and every opportunity to catch COVID. I was on 2 packed planes, just around. I was in Florida. I'm like, wow.
Oh boy.
It just comes down. I think it just comes down to dumb luck a lot of times. I mean, right place, right time, or wrong place at the right time. Because I have been in so many. I'm trying to be vigilant, but wow. I mean, like I said, that trip to Florida, I'm like, wow. That's how do you not get it there?
Yeah, you're very fortunate. I have not been on a plane since the night after Indiana's game against Nebraska. I flew back from Chicago, went straight to Bankers Life, and found out that March was canceled, and then came home, and that was that. I haven't been on a plane since.
Yeah, I had dreams of those early photographs that we saw of like 4 people throughout the entire fuselage of the plane. That was not the case. There was not like it. There was hardly an empty seat.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's what you get for flying the cheap airline, I guess.
There you go.
Mortgage options and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you on this Tuesday from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Will got me again on that one. Don't know who that is. Talking another reason, Mike. The great Mike DeCourcy's with us. By the way, from the Sporting News, BTN, Fox. We were talking about the NCAA tournament being housed in Indianapolis area. The venues. That's just to me another reason because there are a lot of cool. We talked about Hinkle and all that, but all these games would be at a Assembly Hall, Mackey. These are great venues for people to go play in when fans are allowed. They're great fan venues individually. Mackey is very different than Assembly Hall, but both are unique and great from a fan perspective.
Absolutely. And I don't know what the circumstance will be for March relative to the attendance. I think it'll be pretty limited. And because presuming they allow players' family members to go and understanding that these are indoor venues with limited capacity to begin with, once you get past those people, the family members and such, maybe those people who work for the school, some of them who need to be there, some of them who would want to be there. And then if they allow media in, you're getting pretty close to about as many people as you'd be allowed to have anyway, until maybe we get to the Final Four. So I think that, Mackey, Mackey is an awesome place to go see a game, especially when it's full with the paint crew and all that. Their Assembly Hall on a big IU game is phenomenal. Hinkle Fieldhouse, we've already discussed what a delightful place that is. So all of those venues are terrific in their own way, and hopefully the players will be able to appreciate that. It's hard to know. I don't know that the players are able to appreciate the venues they're in. If you're playing at Kansas, is being in Allen the same, or being at Cameron? I think the answers that Michigan State and Illinois provided are that it wasn't really quite the same. That it's not really. It doesn't really have that feel when you don't have the crazies leaning out over the press to nearly reach onto the floor and all of that. So I do think it's different. But I think that the most important thing is that we are going to have an NCAA tournament. I expect that it will be successful once they get the teams in there. The one thing I'm hopeful of is that we've seen very few, relative to the vast universe of Division I college basketball teams. We've seen very few at any given time that have had problems relative to the virus and have had to postpone or cancel games. It's been reasonably few, but if you get to that stage and you have a problem, what happens then? I think that's the one contingency that we really haven't seen a definitive explanation on what you would do. And so I'll be very interested to see what happens. And hopefully we'll have 68 teams that don't have any of those problems in that time frame.
Yeah, we talked about the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, the official name. It used to be the Pepsi Coliseum. It's been a lot of things. I just learned it housed the 1957 NBA Finals.
I did not know that. The last time I
saw that yesterday.
The last time I was there, it was for the state fair, and we watched a horse show in there. And so it's going to be a little different for hoops. I was not.
I got a great story for you, Mike. I used to be the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. It's the NFL of rodeo cowboys. Their professional bull riders tour. I used to be the media relations director for them, and had a stop in that Coliseum. A bull got loose and was in the circling in the what do you call the area where people are walking out there. He was loose.
The concourse.
Yes, it was unbelievable. I saw it with my own eyes. I was there, so I know it happened. But that's just you've had a bull running around the outside and the NBA Finals. There's history at all of these venues, man. That's what makes this thing great. It's crazy.
Yeah, the first time I was ever in Mackey was for when the Spiece tournament used to be held at Mackey before they built their own building in Fort Wayne. And the first time I was there, my wife and I had to make a trip to Chicago for her business. And I asked her on the way back if we could stop and watch the championship game of the Spiece tournament on Sunday afternoon. So we drove over and we sat in the stands, and there was like 20 people there. And when it was Houston and a team from Chicago, I believe it was one of the Houston teams. And I believe the team from Chicago, but I couldn't swear to this. Maybe it was the Houston team, basically stalled for almost the entire second half. So we go out of our way to go see this game, and one of the teams plays stall ball because there's no shot clock, and his team has a lead or whatever. And then so my wife said, "Was this worth it?" And I said, "Yes, because I just saw the best player in the country. It was Rashard Lewis. I have no awareness of Rashard Lewis, but I watched him play in that game, and I'm like, that dude, he is a baller. He is going to be great." Unfortunately, he didn't show up in any college. He went straight to the NBA, but he had a great career. And it was interesting to get a chance to see him play that afternoon.
Bracketology is, like I said earlier, this has got to be just normally the top goes down, and it's pretty deep. You can go down pretty deep on teams or pretty solid on. This year, that window is like maybe 25 teams above and maybe 25 teams below what the actual cutoff will be. It seems like it's just going to be extraordinarily difficult for you guys.
I will say this, though. When I was doing it yesterday, it didn't feel any Sunday night and yesterday. It didn't feel that much different. when I was shaving teams off at the end. Now, obviously, first of all, there's no consequence to my bracket because I'm not picking the teams definitively. I'm not I should be in charge of all of it. I get that, but I'm not. And so I when I was doing it, I didn't feel that the pressure. I don't feel the pressure of do I have the right team at the end, but I felt like I did. That I could defend not having Purdue in now, and I could defend not having I got a lot of pushback yesterday. You only have one Atlantic 10 team. Okay, who else should be in there? Never hear back from those because they don't have an answer. They know they want more than one, but they don't have an answer because they don't have a second team right now. Now they may get that, but right now they don't because Dayton went out and lost to Hofstra or somebody like that last week. Or no, it was Richmond that lost to Hofstra, but Dayton got handled by one of the mediocre teams in their league, and they got knocked off the field. So it really wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And the hard part I had was I was always searching for a team on a high. Like I don't have enough teams that I think have earned a 2 or have earned a 7. I have a lot of teams that look like 8s and 9s, 10s and 11s, but not as many that look like they belong on the 7 line. My 7 line, oh my gosh. I mean, it's a train wreck. I have Virginia on there just because there's no reason they belong there at this point other than a few metrics, but there's no one to put in their place. So honestly, that's been the real hard part is trying to find enough qualified teams for certain pivot points in the bracket. And the 7 line was the one that was the clearest and most difficult. I did not have, I'm not sure I have any real 7 seeds from at this point in the season. And I didn't have that much trouble saying the teams that are my first 4 out. I didn't have that. I didn't have any pangs of guilt about leaving any of them out at this stage.
The Big Ten is always so strong and stronger this year than even normal. And we get so much credit for it being such a great league, but hasn't won a national championship in such a long time. How much pressure with this season being the way it is and being so many Big Ten teams that are looked at as being good, how much pressure on the Big Ten from an optics standpoint to win that national championship this year, get that monkey off your back?
Honestly, I don't think any. I mean, the discussion point is there. One of my friends, good friends in the business, Adam Zagoria, wrote a column last week for Forbes about how we're looking at a possible record-setting year. There's been one league in the history of the NCAA tournament that's gotten 11 bids to the tournament. That was the Big East in 2011. The highest percentage of a league that's gotten into the tournament was 1991, when the Big East got 7 of 9 members into the league. The Big East could tie one of those. The Big Ten could tie one of those and break the other. If they get 11, they tie the all-time record for most teams in, and they break the record for percentage of membership by the thinnest of margins, but still they would have the record for that. So they would have basically the greatest regular season in terms of relative to the NCAA tournament that there's ever been if they were able to get 11. Now it's going to be very hard, as I mentioned before, because of that intersection between the various teams, but the possibility does exist because they have 13 teams that are NCAA tournament capable. If they can keep 11 of those alive, then they get those records. But when you get to the NCAA tournament, whether you have 10, 11, 9, whatever, the pressure on each individual team is, I want to keep playing in this thing. I want to be in. I want to be in Lucas Oil for those final 2 games. That's my pressure, and this is my one shot. And it used to be that teams like Indiana in 1975, Scott May breaks his arm. They were unbelievable, but everybody was coming back. And so even at that, I mean, the loss to Kentucky was disappointing and the opportunity missed was disappointing, but everybody was coming back just about. They were going to lose, I think, 1 guy. And so even that pressure wasn't on the 75 team. The pressure was on the 76 team to do what they came to do, and they did it. But now, every time you go to an NCAA tournament, that may be the only time you're even close to intact, because guys might transfer, guys are going to go pro. This is your one shot. So you're not worried about your conference at that point. You're only worried about, this is my chance to play in the biggest games. I get this one, if I win this one, I get the next one. If I win that one, I get another. If I win 4 of them, I get to the ultimate stage. If I win 6, I'm a champion. And that's the thing that they all think about, not necessarily, hey, it's been since Michigan State in 2000. I don't think that any of the players and teams even think about that for a second.
Another team that we talk about in that light is Gonzaga, who has been so strong for so long, but they've not been able to get that national championship one. And there are the people that say, well, they play out west, they don't play as tough a schedule, but they're a very formidable program and has been. Is this their year possibly?
Yeah, and that they have the best chance they've ever had. This is their best team. They were tremendous several times in the last decade, and they were very, very good in the decade before that. But this is the best team that they've had, especially relative to the field. And they've already demonstrated that by going through Virginia and Kansas and others. They've dominated just about everybody they've played. They have multiple point guards. They have great depth in the backcourt. They have size in the front court and depth in the front court. They have 3 guys who could be first-team All-American. 3 guys. Jalen Suggs, freshman, maybe the best freshman in the country. He's had some health issues, some ankles and stuff, but he's been phenomenal when he's been able to play. Corey Kispert's one of the best shooters in the country. And then in the front court, Drew Timme is an amazing big guy. So they've got great players at all 3 levels. They have everything they need. And they understood that coming in. They knew they were going to be great. And that's why they took the Kansas game and they chased they wanted to play Baylor. They wanted to play because they knew that they didn't want to leave any doubt about getting a 1 seed. They wanted to challenge themselves as much as possible so that they could see what areas they might need to improve. I think they're going to enter the NCAA tournament as the favorite and quite possibly as the first team with a legitimate chance to run the table since Kentucky in 2015. Now, the problem, Jim, is that when you do that, when you get in that position, and I was there in 91 for Vegas when they lost to Duke, and I was there for all of Kentucky's NCAA tournament games in 2015. And when you get in that position, it weighs on you. It really does. You start to think about it. I don't have any doubt about that. I don't believe in losing on purpose or anything like that, but I do believe that pressure is a thing, because you're not used to losing, and you don't know how, you don't always know how to avoid it because you've been so far removed from it for so long. That was true with Vegas in 91. It was largely true with Kentucky in 15, and it could become a problem for this Gonzaga team.
And that's something that has continued to get more difficult because you have the advent of social media and nonstop sports coverage. You cannot escape it if you're in it. There's no way you can bubbleize yourself, even if you're in a bubble. I don't think you can't escape it. Mike, what's coming up next for you? Make sure I know you've got a hectic schedule all the time with BT and Fox. You got bracketology going on. What's going on?
Well, my current bracket, my most recent one for Fox is up now. And that was released yesterday. And you can find that at CBB on Fox or at TSN Mike. And those are both Twitter handles, CBB on Fox or TSN Mike. I'll be on Inside the Big East various times on FS1, doing the Big East breakdown for that, as well as I'll be on BTN on Saturday on the pregame shows. So I'm here and there and everywhere, and this week I'm going to be doing some stuff relative to the college football playoff final, which will come up between Ohio State and Alabama on Monday night. So check my Twitter, TSN Mike, and you'll see everything that I do for everything I write for Sporting News there.
And here I got so consumed with everything. totally forgot about the Outback Bowl. My gosh, we'll have to go over that next week. I apologize. Spaced it today, just trying to get everything together. I cannot thank you enough as always, man.
That was a forgettable game, Jim, so I don't think you have to feel bad.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's that's going to be tough to get over for a lot of people. I really do, but I think that's really going to hurt Tom deeply, losing that game.
Well, it's a great program, and they're on their way north. And it certainly was a disappointing performance and disappointing result, but of success in 2020. I don't think they should allow that to define their season.
Absolutely. The great Mike DeCourcy, always so happy to have you with us, man. We appreciate you so much. Have a great week and safe travels. Look forward to doing it again next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, brother. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Chronic Hoosiers is going to join us next. Stay tuned. We're back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the north. Gosh, dang it. I guess I'm just tired of talking about it, to be honest with you. There's just not much more to talk about. But, of course, sure wish I'd have done that with Mike. Golly.
Get sent over to the station to get today?
It does. We're back. Should be back to normal schedule. The bowl games are all over.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, thank you. What? Do you know who Jack Ma is?
No, I do not. Also, I got Chronic on.
Hey, Chronic. I know he does.
What up?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing better than Jack Ma is.
Jack Ma.
He's a Chinese billionaire that is missing.
Oh, yeah. They were trying to figure out if he's, like, where he is. What's his story now?
I don't know. They're thinking maybe the government may have picked him up. How you been? How are the guys at Andy Moore?
Oh, we are getting by, man. It's nice to get back on a normal schedule. Holidays kind of fucked us 6 ways from Sunday, just with the scheduling and
It's
just a bunch of miserable motherfuckers.
It's terrible coming back. It's like, God, I hate it.
Yes, and let me tell you this much. The only people that come shopping for cars over the holidays are people who don't have other people that would like to hang out with them on the holidays.
Tire kickers.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
just
$6
miserable
special
people.
from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings,
But we got
or a
through it.
7-inch
So
pizza,
here's
and a
to New Year.
non-alcoholic drink for just $6.
The best thing I did in Tampa,
Karaoke
I
fun
went to
every
a cigar
Friday and
bar by
Saturday night.
myself.
Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 26.
That's actually a phenomenal thing to do in Tampa if you got some time
Today's
to kill.
guest is brought to you by Reynolds
awesome.
Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million
They have
smile
some
for those
great
championship
stogies
photos,
down
and
there.
that's exactly
Dude,
what
we
you'll
just-
get from Reynolds Family Dentistry. Sit there and drink an old fashioned. Damn. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Tuesday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, and that means Chronic Hoosiers with us. How are you, sir?
Oh, yeah, glad to be back. Glad to finally be out of 2020, man. It's nice to turn the calendar here and start a new year in Bloomington.
Absolutely say that. I just finished up with Mike DeCourcy, a great day with him talking about fans not existent. One of the tweets I sent out for the bowl game down there was just, it's not the same without the people. It's even if for us to cover, it's not the same. It's just a real muted. Everything's just muted. And man, oh man, I cannot wait till fans come back. I can only imagine the players, because that energy, I know how much they need it, because it sucks for us not to have it.
No, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I just started this morning talking to a coworker of mine who was lucky enough to find himself in Assembly Hall last night. Good friends with the Leal family, and they were able to get him in to go watch. And talking about just what a different environment it is in this COVID era where fans are not generally allowed in there. And he said, you know, in basketball, it's kind of like when the kids were younger and they're playing like an 8 a.m. Sunday morning AAU tournament, when it's literally just like the team, a couple of parents, and that's it. You know, like there's more staff working the facility than there are fans in the stands. And while that's certainly weird and not the norm, it's something that they've at least experienced. You know, to step into an NFL stadium like Raymond James or basically any of the stadiums in the Big Ten, and just to be completely devoid of that energy, of that presence. It's just such an odd time. You know, unfortunately, I felt like Indiana excelled among the best in the country this football season in bringing their own juice and creating their own energy. And, you know, on the one chance that they get to play in front of at least a smattering of fans, unfortunately, the energy just wasn't quite there for them, like we'd seen up to that point in the season.
Well, last night, the first half of that game, man, that was like being at a funeral procession almost. But the second half, night and day difference. Indiana scores 21 points in the first half, 42 in the second half. You talk about up in your production.
Yeah, you know, I can't say it's not uncommon in recent history with Indiana basketball to see halves that are pretty markedly different. The difference being last night, you know, this is a team that struggled pretty mightily for some time with offense. That was about as bad as we've seen, and we've seen some pretty bad offensive outputs. You know, comment I made to a different coworker: these guys could be standing on K-Dock down at Lake Monroe, and they couldn't throw a ball into the lake in the first half last night. It was almost unwatchable, to be totally honest with you. But as we've seen, this is a team that is proven to be perfectly capable of responding at the halftime and figuring some things out. And as we've seen in the past, you know, it usually starts with their defense. And not that the defense was terribly bad in the first half. It just, the energy wasn't quite there. The ability to get out in transition wasn't quite there. And just to really lock it down on the defensive side, this team has shown that they can get a spark offensively when the defense gets keyed in like that. And boy, did it come in spades, and it came through their All-American, which is, you know, for most fans, that seems to be the predominant text so far this season, is do they even realize Trace is out on the floor with them? And when they remember he's out there and they remember to feed him, good things have proven to happen to Indiana.
Yeah, and that's going to continue to be the way right now. But what a job by those guys in the middle last night. A double by both, 22 and 15 for Trace Jackson, 13 and 11 for Race Thompson. And they're going to need a lot of that if Armand is going to be out for the next couple of games, which he is with a little ankle sprain, it looks like. He tweaked it last night. Archie said he's probably going to be out for a few games. He's been the most productive shooter up until now for Indiana. Somebody else is going to have to step up. Shots weren't falling very well last night for certain.
No, and you know, you mentioned Race's double-double. I think it kind of gets lost in Trace's second half performance. Indiana's not in contact with Maryland at the halftime without Race's first half performance. He really put that team on his shoulder, particularly in the first 10 minutes. You know, not just scoring, but also on the glass with his defense. That was kind of an unsung hero in my book for last night, because that doesn't happen without Race. But like you mentioned, you know, if Armand's going to be absent for a while, he has proven to be this team's most competent, most capable slasher. I mean, his ability to drive the basketball when the shots aren't falling is something that's going to be absolutely imperative for Indiana going forward when they have nights like that. Let's not make any mistakes about it. You know, this is a team that is going to struggle from the 3-point line. And when defenses continue to pack it in and make it really difficult to feed the ball to Trace. This team cannot settle for just becoming a jump shooting team. Plays right into the defense's hands. And, Armand has proven that he can break a defender down and at least get the ball into the lane, get the defense to collapse, whether he takes it all the way to the rim or he's able to get a kickoff or a dump down. It's just got to break the defense, and it's got to start with the backcourt. And, I was fairly impressed with the way the whole team kind of responded to that. And I think they really did it more than anything, just with their energy, to be totally honest. It was night and day difference. The energy they were playing with on both ends of the ball, the aggression, but also the poise. And there were a couple of moments, and I tweeted it out, where we had a Jordan Geronimo 3-point early in the shot clock. Race ended up taking a circus shot in the lane, way wildly off balance, when they were just clinging to a couple-point lead. And having the wherewithal to recognize the time, the score, the situation. When they find themselves in those high leverage moments where they just battled back to a lead, not letting that slip away, not giving it up, at a critical moment in the game, they found a way to get the ball into Trace. And, I thought his resiliency, his toughness, especially after he took that knock on his knee, was a pretty big moment for this team, a pretty big moment for Trace, to be quite honest with you. That was a defining moment for it. And to stand at the line after he'd taken that foul and knock down both free throws, that was hugely pivotal for Indiana, being able to seal that one up, I think. But it all starts with an ability to get the ball in the paint and convert some of those easy buckets. Because as bad as the 3-point shooting was, they struggled mightily at the rim last night as well. In the first half, they missed all sorts of layups and bunnies, and we've seen that previously. That can be just as detrimental to this team's chances as an off night from the 3-point line.
Yeah, you talk about Race. He had 13 points. I think 9 of those points may have come in the first 10 minutes. Because I remember tweeting something out about him. I'm like, hey, he was at it, and I think he had 9 at the half. So, but he did most of his damage right off the start. And like you said, if it wasn't for him, there is no start for Indiana. They're out of that. The guards did a better job of trying to attack the basket. They seemed like they tried to get to the rim a little more than I've seen them do recently. Rob Finney and Al Durham both. Trey Galloway started the game. I think he scored the first bucket of the game, going right at it, and I don't think he scored again.
No, after he did, he drove the rim, got a layup, and then proceeded to go 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. After that, just had one other shot inside the 3-point line. Again, one of those situations where he really plays in their hands. One of the things I found was really interesting. Not only did Indiana hit as many free throws as Maryland attempted, kind of indicative of some of that aggression, you only had 3 players. Only Trace, Race, and Al Durham actually found themselves at the line at any point yesterday. And that's something that is absolutely not going to be able to get it done for.
Yeah, that's something I did not notice. I did not catch that. But yeah, and that's the thing. They beat a team that's a good team. That they may not have looked great last night in the first half or the whole game. But don't forget, this Maryland team just went to Madison and beat the Wisconsin team that Indiana has to go play on Thursday. So it's an up and down thing. At least Indiana showed they have the talent and the capabilities. It's whether or not they can bring it night in and night out and overcome the mistakes that they've been making too often.
Yeah, that's you try to look at common opponents and what that may foretell for future matchups. And right now, honest to goodness, the Big Ten is just so incredibly difficult to read. A Maryland team that can beat Wisconsin at home pretty handily, quite honestly. And then just, let's be honest, they kind of laid an egg in the second half as well. It was not working for them. They couldn't match Indiana's energy. And normally that's something that you could attribute to a home court advantage. Obviously, as we talked about to start the show, that's not necessarily the case this year. So you're going to be real curious to see exactly how Indiana manages a fanless barn environment, especially with Wisconsin coming off a pretty big win against Minnesota, which has proven to be a pretty good Minnesota team. At New Year's Eve, they've had a week to prepare for this one, and they've had some issues. Everybody's had some issues so far this season, and battling the COVID. So I'll be real curious to see how they come out of that extended pause. And it's my understanding, too, I don't even think Indiana's coming home after that one. They may be heading, I believe, straight to Nebraska after the Wisconsin game. So that's something that's not real common in normal times. Obviously, they don't have school right now, so they have no academic assignments to return to. But it's just going to minimize some of the travel, allow them to spend a little bit more time preparing for that Nebraska game this coming Sunday.
And I try to not talk much about the Outback Bowl today. It's still that's a painful one. That's going to take a long time for people to get past the loss to Ole Miss down there. Just thought pretty much expected to win like never before, but boy, oh boy, things just did not go well for the Indiana football team in Tampa.
I'll tell you what, that was to say it was disappointing is probably one of the biggest understatements. It was just really, really frustrating. I think it kind of revealed just how important Michael Penix was to this team's success. I mean, let's be honest. Jack Tuttle had one complete game up at Wisconsin. I thought the offensive staff did a great job, managing his capabilities during that game. They committed to the run though as well, and that was something I thought was hugely impactful in their inability to get it done this weekend. But also you're looking at look at the turnover battle, man. I mean, you can basically look at every game throughout the course of the season, look at the turnover column, and pretty much guess who won that game. And it wasn't just that they happened; it's how they happened, it's when they happened. That interception in the first half. When Mississippi had just stretched it out to 13-3, Indiana was driving the football, and then they give it back up, fumble in the second half the exact same way after they've been able to grind out some yards, they give it back up. This was one of those games where I felt like Indiana beat themselves every bit as much as Mississippi beat us, whether it be through turnovers, through ineffectiveness. They didn't have what it took on that given day. And that was one of those things I saw a lot of people talk about. I want to dismiss it because, it's a January bowl game for Indiana football. And it's hard to imagine a world where that doesn't matter a lot to this program. But in fact, it did prove out to be one of those lose-lose situations where, you lose and you got all sorts of egg on your face. You win and everybody said, well, you beat a team from the SEC with a horrible record. So what's that really prove about you? But worst case scenario, they not only did they lose, but a whole lot being made about the disrespect that they endured to get to that point. And it just really proved a lot of the pundits
break here soon, guys.
Were accurate that Indiana perhaps did not deserve it. So all that said, it's going to be a long off season. As we saw last year, Tom Allen's proven pretty efficient at taking those types of slights and turning them into motivation to achieve something bigger than what they'd had before. So hopefully that holds true again this year.
Well, absolutely. But the great thing is they should actually possibly, be better next season. It depends on what happens with Michael Penix, because like you said, it was his worth was definitely apparent. But everybody can come back. Surely everyone's not. We've seen just a couple of transfers here, but not much as of late. Have to see what happens with Ty Freifogel. I saw a tweet out by Walt Fillier. Decisions. I think he'll come back, but it'll be very interesting for him. But they're going to be in great position to do that. It'd be interesting to see who's going to be the next DC of this program.
No, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of big questions I think we'll have answered up here shortly. Not the least of which is how quickly can Jack Tuttle recover from the separated shoulder, whether or not that requires, any operative care, so that you've got a healthy quarterback room once they break for fall camp this next year.
Some big news that for the state of Indiana, the entire NCAA tournament chronic right here.
I'll tell you what, man, it's about time they brought it all home to Indiana. I think, we've long lobbied that Indianapolis should be the permanent site of the Final Four. It's just the best setup for it, the most basketball crazy state. I love the move. It's a situation where it's nationally centralized. You've got tremendous facilities all around the greater Indy area. They've extended it up 65 and down 69 to bring Mackey and Assembly Hall in for the early rounds. It's just one of the best host cities in the world when it comes to putting on something like the NCAA tournament. Hoosier hospitality really shines on weekends like this. And, this is the same city that just a few weeks afterwards hosts the 500 every single year, the largest single spectator sporting event in the world. There's just nobody that's quite equipped to do it like Indiana does, especially at the intersection with basketball. So really, really looking forward to that. Hopefully they'll find a way to allow at least some allocation of fans in the stands. At the very least, get the families and some people from the university in there. But just a great chance for Indianapolis to once again show what it does best. And that's putting on some of the best sporting events in the country.
And, Bob Ryan, longtime Boston Globe columnist, he sent out a tweet that, hey, it's great. It's going to be there. He goes, it should always be there. And Mike, of course, he was on earlier and we were talking about that and he agrees. And that would be fantastic with the NCAA located in Indianapolis. I wonder how much of an opportunity there really is for that to come to fruition. I mean, Indianapolis is pretty much in the rotation, every 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's just ideally set up with so much being centralized downtown. Indianapolis is a great walking town when it comes to the amenities, the hotel, the dining, the location of the stadiums for putting something like this on. And I know, a lot of folks love New Orleans, a lot of folks love San Antonio. But even still, with both of those, there are a few cities that are just as compacted, as centralized as Indiana is for putting something like this on, as well as stuff to do, when the games aren't being played. So it's cliche, but it's truly what Indiana does best. We grow corn, we grow basketball here. It's just part of the DNA of this state. And, we've got some great gyms for the teams to play in. Love the fact that they're going to be able to bring in Hinkle, the Coliseum for that matter, Assembly Hall in Mackey. Not just these massive cavernous NFL stadiums to showcase the game in an environment where it was specifically designed to be played. And even within the absence of fans, everything about those stadiums is set up to produce some of the best basketball games in the world. So again, I cannot wait to see Indianapolis really get a chance to showcase those attributes here this March.
I couldn't agree more about that and looking so forward to it. You're always busy. I know I saw a recent episode of Mind Your Banners Out. What you guys got coming up? What's going on with you?
The holidays have kind of had us all jacked up here between the bowl schedule and family and work. So hopefully we're gonna circle the wagons back here this week and kind of do a season wrap for football. Basketball is we're certainly getting into the heart of it. There's still a lot of questions to be answered, but we're certainly getting a fairly good glimpse at who this team is, what they're made of, what they're capable of, as well as tracking the trajectory, the arc of this season and the individual growth. So should look for that here, hopefully, if not tomorrow, in the coming days.
Looking forward to it, man. Chronic, I can't thank you enough. As always, look forward to it. We'll do it again next week. We'll be talking about Indiana's results with Wisconsin.
Hey, looking forward to it, man. Thank you for having me on. Hey, drive safe, Jim. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you. Safe days for Chronic Hoosier. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on the Indiana Sports Speak to finish it up here. We'll be back with more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bob. Perfect. Yeah, that lets me shorten this last segment, Will. Will, can you hear me?
Yeah, why?
Okay, just make sure, because I didn't hear anything. I was like, oh man, it was awful quiet. It scares me when it's quiet.
I can turn the commercials on if you want to hear them.
No. It's great. I love that. It scares me. It just, I get nervous. Oh, poo.
Down the Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Mama told me not to go. That ain't the way that I know.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios here on this Tuesday. Indiana Sports Beat. Finished up with Michael Corsi, had Chronic Hoosier on. Plenty of great things going on, but man, the entire NCAA tournament coming to the state of Indiana is just awesome. Seriously, I talked to Mike about just think about the venues for real. And boy, you're going to be happy as if you're on one of the teams that gets to go to Hinkle, you're probably going to be the happiest. No doubt about that. But you get to play in some iconic venues regardless, whether it's the Simon Scott Assembly Hall or Mackey. And even though the Farmers Coliseum at the fairgrounds doesn't look like much now, that's been kind of redone. It's an intimate venue, but it's got great history. The 1957 NBA Finals, I had no idea. I saw that, and it's crazy that was there. But it's just going to be also an opportunity for the state to showcase itself in ways. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not how many fans. I cannot envision outside of family like it is now. I just can't envision that with where everything is gone. We can hope it continues to get better. Hope more fans are allowed to go, but we'll wait and see. The larger venues may allow some of that, but even we've seen like at Assembly Hall, one of the games that I've been to, there's just not a lot of people there. You've got the family for Indiana mainly and some media, not even much of that. And that's it. So we can always hope, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. Indiana could be playing in Hinkle, or they could end up playing in the NCAA tournament in Mackey. It could just be the weirdest set. Purdue could be set to play if they make it in. Purdue's one of the teams that's struggling to get in the bracket. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised by that. I haven't watched Purdue a lot. I've just tried to watch the scores. I know that game that one they lost to Miami, they coughed up a 20-point lead. That one really hurt. And Indiana, to be honest with you, look at some of the teams they've lost to. Texas is now number 4. And the Texas did manhandle and beat the crap out of Indiana, but they're number 4 in the country. They are a formidable team that is getting nothing but better and better. Indiana's going to have to get better as well. We saw a good half last night, or better at least, a solid half on the interior. Had doubles from Trace and Race, like we talked about. The shots just weren't falling. You're going to have to find somebody who's going to step up. With Armand Franklin is going to be out for a few games, so they've got a lot of issues to work on. But you've got plenty of opportunities. But the next one coming up quickly is Thursday. Indiana travels to Madison, Wisconsin. to take on the Badgers, who've proven that they've been a top 6 team at one time. I'm not sure exactly where they are right now. I haven't got that pulled up, but they're formidable. Doesn't matter. And it always is. It's always a tough place. Now you got to go up there and bring your own energy and follow off of this. If they could take what they did in that second half last night, there's a lot of places for them to improve and get better. And they can. They have the talent. Archie Miller talked about confidence for Rob Phinisee. He tried to get to the rim some last night, but he's just got to keep pushing because the team, they have to have him. There's just not many other bodies. You gotta have Al Durham. You got to have everybody, especially now when you got Armand going down. The freshmen are still trying to find their way. Archie doesn't have the confidence to have them in there for great lengths of time, it seems. But we'll get another chance to talk about it. I look forward to doing it tomorrow. We'll be back to do this all again. I can't thank Mike DeCourcy and Chronic Hoosier enough today. We appreciate those guys as always. We appreciate you guys most of all. Make sure you please wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.